Okay, why don't you start with what's your name and your hometown?
I'm Randy Young from Abilene, Texas.
And what were you doing before you joined the Marine Corps?
Oh, I was working in a gas station and going to college part time, and decided that wasn't college life wasn't really for me ready yet, so I decided to join the Marine Corps. A bunch of my buddies all decided we was going to go down and volunteer for the draft, and walked into the Marine recruiter's office, and he just laughed at us and said, "No, you can't. It doesn't work that way." He says, "You'll probably end up in the army." So he says, "Just get your ass in the office and let's get you signed up." So we went into the office, and of course he set us up for the test, and we all passed the test, of course. And then for some reason, well, I just met my future wife, and so I decided I wasn't quite ready to go in the Marine Corps, and my three buddies went on in. They went in the buddy program, and me and my wife, of course, did get married, and then for some reason I decided to go ahead and go on in, and I went back down to see the Marine recruiter, and I told him, I said, "Well, I've changed my mind. I'll go ahead and go in." And he says, "Well, let's sign you up." I said, "Yeah, I just want to go in for two, because at the time you could go in for 2 years active and 4 years reserve." He said, "No, no." He says, "You don't want to go in for 2 years." He said, "They're just going to make you a grunt, and you're going to go to Vietnam and probably get killed." I said, "Well, I'll take my chances." And he said, "No, no." He said, "Come on, sign up for 3." He said, "At least I can probably get you a school of some kind, maybe Motor T or something like that." And I told him, I said, "No." I said, "I'm not interested. I just do the 2 and I'll get out." He said, "I'll tell you what." He says, "They just come out with a brand new thing. All you got to do is sign up for 4." And I thought, is this guy not listening to me or what, you know? And he says, "We got a new program. It's called Aviation Guaranteed." I said, "Listen, I've already heard about all your guarantees." I said, "I'm not falling for that one." He said, "No." He said, "We'll actually give it to you in writing." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He says, I said, "Well, what's the guarantee?" He says, "Well, I guarantee you're going to be on the airfield for 4 years." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You might be an MP, you might be a cook, you might be a jet engine mechanic." He said, "I don't know, but you're going to be on an airfield." And I thought, well, that didn't sound too bad. So I said, "Okay, you suckered me in, let's go." So that's how I got in the Marine Corps.
So, what did your parents think of you going into the Marine Corps?
Well, I've been trying to think and remember, and I really don't remember a strong reaction to it one way or the other, because I'd already joined, so it was kind of a moot point by that time. And I was 19 actually, so they didn't have to sign papers or anything. And I guess the funny thing about it was I always remembered later on that my brother and I were growing up. Of course, we shared the same room. He was 4 years older than me. He always had Marine Corps posters up on his side of the room. I never gave anything a thought about it, and he went in the National Guard, and I ended up going to the Marines. So,
So, what were your specialty training that you took?
uh, I found out later I was kind of a guinea pig in a way. I went straight to the squadron from AIT, Advanced Infantry Training, out of Camp Pendleton. And I went straight to, I reported to El Toro, and they said, "Oh, you got to go over to LTA." And I said, "What's LTA?" Of course, that was the blimp base, they called it. And I went over there, and they said, "Yeah, you're going to be in helicopters." I said, "Oh, that's cool." And so I reported in over there, and they assigned me right straight to the training squadron. I didn't even have to go through any schools or anything. It was basically an on-the-job training. They were trying to see if they could get them trained faster than sending them all the way through Memphis. So it's pretty much OJT training.
Um, what do you remember about your trip to Vietnam and what happened when you got there?
Oh, obviously it was a long flight over. They loaded us up on 141s, flew to Travis, refueled, flew to Guam, refueled, flew to Manila, refueled, then to Da Nang. I think we got there late at night because it was already dark. Of course, they unloaded us on the Air Force side of the Da Nang, trucked us around onto the Marine Corps side, and put us in the transit barracks. Of course, the transit barracks were right on the end of the runway, so you had Phantoms and the A4s taking off, and landing all night long and the ground shaking and the noise. And I thought, my gosh, how are we supposed to sleep in this? But amazingly, you do go to sleep, but it was kind of eerie, especially landing at night, because you couldn't see anything. All you could see the perimeter gates and lights and stuff, and you thought, what's going on? So you're kind of in a limbo world there. You can't see what's going on.
Did you, when you first got into Vietnam, did you know exactly what unit you were going to? Were you kind of confused about what you were going to do, or?
No, I was assigned to 364. We were coming over as a squadron. I was in the advance party. The rest of the guys were coming back over. They were bringing the birds on the ship, and we flew over to the advance party to get the area ready for whenever the ships got there, and then we would be hopefully up and running in a matter of days once they got there. So they got there. We stuck around Da Nang for it seemed like 2 or 3 days, and they were going to sign us up to Phu Bai. Was going to be our base of operations, and they got up to Phu Bai, and nobody knew we were supposed to be there. And there was no housing for us or anything. They dug around all day long and finally found some tents. So we threw up some 10-man tents, and basically we lived in those 10-man tents for about 3 or 4 months before they built us permanent barracks on the other side of the runway. Okay, I got in country in late October of '67, and we lived in the tents up until I think it was in the January time frame, if I remember right. And they'd built some barracks across all the way on the other end, opposite side of the runway at Phu Bai, and put down Marshall matting and everything, because we were working out of a mud corner down there on the runway. And it was, like I say, early '68 that we went over there.
And what was a typical day like when you were first in there? What were your assignments?
Well, first we was actually we were relieving a 34 squadron, and I think they only had about 10 or 12 ships left. They'd already dispersed most of their ships out, and so actually we were kind of loaned to them, and flew gunners on 34s for the month until the squadron got over on the ship. And that was kind of fun, because I'd never been on a 34 before, so flew gunner on those for, like I say, for a month, and then until the squadron got there.
When did you start flying combat operations, and what was that like when you first started doing the combat side of it?
Pretty much within a couple of weeks after the squadron got there. I think we did a little bit of familiarization flying. They put us on some milk runs and stuff like that, because all of us were new in country, obviously, and so they put us on stuff that didn't have a lot of I don't know what word I'm looking for, danger, I guess, associated with it. And then before they finally cut us loose, and probably only about a month, and then we started flying full combat operations.
Any fears going on in your life at that time about what to expect to combat?
Not that I recall. I really don't. I don't guess you really know how you're going to react till you receive fire the first time. Everybody's a little bit different. The guys you think are kind of John Wayne types turn out to be other than, and vice versa. The guys you don't think are going to make it are some of your fiercest guys. So it's kind of interesting to learn that, and but so you never know how. You always wonder how you're going to handle combat, and it's a revelation, I guess, in a way.
What was your first combat mission, and what was the first time that you were actually shot at that you remember? Or a time that sticks out to you? I know you got another story to come up here.
I really don't remember the first time, to be perfectly honest. One of my more poignant memories was I was flying with the CO one day, and it was during Khe Sanh, and we were flying resupplied. It was before Khe Sanh got really bad, and we were still able to land in Khe Sanh and pick up supplies and just take them out to the hills. and we was resupplying 881 South. And I think on about the third trip out there with an external load, I thought we'd taken some incoming on the ship. And I told the colonel, I said, I think we took some rounds. He said, oh, I don't think so, Young. He said, I think it was just the grunts firing under us. And I said, okay, sir. And so we flew back to Quezon and picked up another load and went back out there. And just as I pickled the load this time, I mean, the whole ship seemed to blow up. Wire bundles were hanging all over the place. And of course, Colonel knew it by that time because he had lost some of his gauges and everything. And we flew and went back to Quezon. And sure enough, I'd taken 4 30, 50 caliber rounds, one in the fuel cell and one in the wire bundle overhead. It wasn't too pretty. Those were big holes.
Any fears involved when things like that were happening, or was it afterwards?
Afterwards, always afterwards. It seemed like sometimes it was in slow motion. The things you could see it and see things happening, and it didn't really affect you, or it didn't affect me in any particular way until I got back to the base and got to thinking about it, and then the fear kind of kicked in. And you think, oh my God.
What was one of the funniest times that you can remember?
Nothing.
We'll take it to
Yeah, I was gonna say.
the worst time. I know you got a worst time. I listened.
Yeah.
Tell me about your worst time.
That was probably, well, I got shot down twice. First time was resupplying Way City during the Tet Offensive, '68, and I was flying the number 2 ship. It was monsoon season, so we were doing treetop hugging, and we had external loads on. Had 3,000 pounds of 105 ammo, and being number 2, I think basically what happened was they shot number 1 and hit number 2, and I was number 2, and we went immediately down into the rice paddy right on top of our external load. I didn't even have time to pickle it, and I was afraid it was going to blow up right then, but fortunately we didn't. The rice paddies were full and everything, so that probably helped cushion it a whole bunch. So we got out of the bird and set up a little perimeter, and we were carrying 2 Hueys that day, thank goodness. One Huey and the other 46 went and dumped their load. The other Huey stayed with us and flew circle over us and kind of watched over us. And the other bird come back, and of course he landed in the next paddy over. And so we had to slog through all that. And I think pretty sure I walked on water because I don't remember getting wet or anything. But they got us out of there, and I remember and I'll leave his name out of it, but the crew chief, as soon as I climbed in the bird, he unplugged his helmet, plugged me in, and then he turned around and started puking. And so I told the pilot, who was Captain Wiegand at the time, I said, sir, we're ready to go. And he turned around and looked and said, well, he didn't understand what was going on. And all I could see up in the windshield was 3 or 4 bullet holes in the windshield, and I didn't know if those guys were even going. But we got back to the base. We got out of there. I think they counted over 100 entrance wounds or entrance shots in that bird when we got back. John Venhouse was one of the gunners. He got shot in the neck. I picked him up and moved him over, and I thought he was dead because, like I say, all I saw was blood coming out of his neck. And one of my gunners jumped up and took over his gun, and I was attending to John. Turned out it wasn't that bad, but it was just it was a bleeder anyway. So that was my first shot down. The second one, of course, was with Major Chauncey. We were flying, trying to do some emergency medevacs and some troops up in the High Band Pass, 150-foot trees and real dense foliage we couldn't see. They were pop smokes, so smoke wouldn't even come through the foliage and stuff. So we just kind of hovered around, and they finally said, you're right over us. We still couldn't see them, but I was just reaching, fixing to open my door and lower the hoist and everything, and that's when they opened up on us. And full automatic. Next thing I know, fuel's running out of the engine compartments and everything back there, and the bird is jerking, and did a 180. It seemed like we was going back down the mountain and right on top of the treetops. And the co-pilot hollers at me. He says, "Come up to crew chief, come up to the cockpit." And I get up there, and Major Chauncey's got blood all over his leg and everything, and he's turning white, and he's jumping around on the controls. And he said, "Keep him off the controls. I can't fight the ship." And so I kind of held him off the controls best I could, and then he finally passed out. And I didn't know if he was dead or just passed out, but thankfully he was just passed out. And then we flew on into Da Nang, and so Captain Dabbage was the pilot at the time, so he helped save us there, so kept us out of the trees, and we was able to get out of there.
But some of the greatest things that happened when we accomplished some things, because in the Marine Corps we're always given responsibility far beyond what we expected. What was the biggest accomplishment you can remember that you felt an accomplishment for?
Oh, my biggest accomplishment, I guess about my last year, they had started a maintenance test pilot school, and I was selected to be an instructor and teaching test pilots, teaching them theory of operational power plants, hydraulic systems, and so, so they could more understand the bird and help troubleshoot it in the air. It was basically, like I say, for test pilots, and I thought that was very informative and everything else. I learned a lot myself about the 46. It was a beautiful bird. Loved working on it. Great, loved it.
Is there anything you would like to put in this? This is your history.
Yeah, I understand.
Anything that you would like to put in here that I haven't got into?
I'd like to talk a little bit about it afterwards.
Okay.
Papa Smoke.
Right.
I think it's great that whoever got it going is fantastic, and we've been able to, through the internet, thank God, get more guys involved, and reconnect with the guys he was in Vietnam with, and some of the yeah, it's a pretty good bond.
Good bunch of people.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's all right. That's
What'd you think of what was going on in the news and all of that while you were in Vietnam?
Well, to be perfectly honest, we never saw the news over there. We was flying all the time. It seemed like 24/7. Yeah, we were just constant.
You think there's any misconceptions about the Vietnam War that you hear today that you'd like to straighten out?
Oh, I guess, of course, I guess people always blamed us at the time, because we were the veterans, but, we were just kids. We were just doing what was asked to be done.
Was it worth the price?
In hindsight, no. In the overall big picture, who knows? I wished I could say yes, but I really don't believe it. After I'd been back from Vietnam 20 years, I finally decided to read a book about the history of Vietnam. And in actuality, all those people wanted was self-government, and they never had that chance.
I mean, you mentioned that. What were you most proud of during your whole military service?
Yeah,
That
my 13-month tour, I thought that was something to hang your hat on, Made it through. No scratches, no Purple Hearts.
What impact did the Purple Foxes have on you?
Oh, I think it was profound. I think we had an excellent reputation while we was over there, and I think we were hands above everybody. We always maintained a lot of readiness. Of course, we had new ships. We went over with D models. We was the first in country in D models, and so they were all brand new. But even when we got over there, we had all kinds of problems with the sand and the water and everything else. But once we got them figured out, boy, I tell you what, they were easy to maintain, easy to work on.
Thinking about the Vietnam time in history,
Hmm.
that whole time,
Sure.
what do you want people to know about this time in history?
Oh, I guess to just appreciate us more. Obviously, they didn't then.
Do you think Vietnam taught us any lessons?
I'd like to think so, but I don't think so. Unfortunately, no.